Hi, folks. My name is Brian Trippett, and I'm known as the Front Porch Conservative. Over the weekend, during my live stream known as Front Porch Brunch, my viewers and I discussed one of the bigger items in the news these days. That is, the cocaine found at the White House. The following is an edited version of that conversation. Take a listen. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. But I am your Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch. We're talking about news items. Uh, Leanne. Leanne, I am so glad you brought this up. I said I have the smartest audience on the internet. You could make an argument I have the most telepathic audience on the internet. Wondering what I'm talking about? It is the cocaine in the White House story. Now, I haven't said a lot about this for a couple of reasons. And one of them is the first thing was I didn't feel like I had my hands on all the facts. But last Sunday, it was reported that cocaine was found in a zippered white bag in White House work area. A substance testing positive for cocaine found inside the White House on Sunday was reportedly found in a work area. New York Times reported Tuesday that the substance had been found in a, quote, work area of the West Wing, and that dispatch had said the substance was found in White House library was incorrect, citing Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi. My Italian is very bad. Small amount of white powdery substance found in the White House Sunday evening. Small zippered bag, highly trafficked part of the West Wing. Unclear how long the bag was in the White House. Biden and his family were reportedly at Camp David when a uniformed Secret Service agent found the substance during a patrol around 6 p.m. on Sunday, and set off a brief evacuation of the White House. We have a yellow bar saying cocaine, hydrochloride, according to a website that archives dispatches from police and fire departments. Okay. Now, that sets up what we were told. Well, as time went by, as you might suspect with these things, certain pieces of information started to come out. Now, the first story that we got was, well, this was probably left by somebody, on a White House tour. We do tours on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe when the president's out of town or nothing major's going on, yada, yada, yada. Left by a tourist. Okay. Well, more and more information started to come out, and I want to play you a clip from NBC News. Okay. And let me back
Kelly, the big.
Okay. So, white powdery substance, weren't totally sure what it was. It was a highly trafficked area. Might have been the White House library. Maybe left by a tourist. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, and now here's the rest of the story. Doing our best all of us doing our best Paul Harvey impersonations. So this is a clip, an exchange between Andrea Mitchell of MSNBC and Kelly O'Donnell, the White House beat reporter. So listen to this.
Kelly, the big change is where this was found. And it was found, by my observation, in a much more secure place, limited access place than that West Wing reception area. It's still a frequently trafficked place, but it's down near the Situation Room, right off West Executive, down below. And average people just can't get in there, even with the entry from the Northwest Gate.
Now, let me say something. Notice what she said. Average people can't get in there. Now, say what you want to about Andrea Mitchell, but one thing is definitely true. That woman has been around D.C. for a hell of a long time. She has worked for NBC News for years. She used to cover the White House. So if anybody's going to know where and who can go where and when in the White House, it would be somebody like Andrea Mitchell. And when she says the average person could not get in this area, and she's not speaking out of her head here, okay? So now that sets up where this goes next. I want to play a little bit of Kelly O'Donnell here.
Well, let me bring you up to date with the reporting that I have. What we have learned is that there are, in fact, 2 West Wing entrances. You know that, I know that, but for the benefit of our audience. And now the investigation has progressed, and so they're saying the West Executive entrance, which, as you noted, is closer to the Situation Room and closer to the Navy Mess, where there's the facilities for food and so forth. It is also next to West Executive Drive. That's where, for example, the Vice President's vehicle is parked.
Okay. It's near the Situation Room. It's near an entrance on the backside where the Vice President herself might park. And I'm not saying anything with that. I'm just repeating what she said. And yeah, it's a high traffic area, but not just anybody can get back there. Okay? Now, that takes us to an article by John Nolte, who's one of my favorite reporters at Breitbart. And he writes the following. I love John Nolte because he has an absolute bite to the way he writes. Headline, Secret Service vet says only family could sneak cocaine into the White House. Secret Service veteran Dan Bongino says only the family of the president could sneak cocaine into the White House. Hunter Biden is the president's son, FYI. This is from a tweet. There's absolutely zero chance anyone other than a family member brought that cocaine into the White House complex, Bongino tweeted Thursday. No chance of making it past MAG and security checkpoints. Family bypasses those. For those who don't know, an unzippered bag containing cocaine was found in the White House Sunday. Secret Service is currently investigating, which should be terribly difficult in one of the most heavily secured buildings in the world, one filled with surveillance cameras. At first, as Americans have come to expect, we were lied to about the cocaine being found in a highly trafficked part of the White House. This means anyone not named Hunter Biden could have left it there. Far-left Politico immediately rushed to the aid of the White House to loudly proclaim White House cocaine culprit unlikely to be found. And yes, they did report that article. That was their headline. But I want to read you something from Mike Lee, who's a senator from Utah, of that highly secure entrance where, quote, just average people can't get in. Mike Lee confirmed what Bongino said, quote, I have been in and out of that entrance a million times. It is one of the most heavily secured and constantly surveilled places on Earth, Lee tweeted. They keep detailed records on who enters and who exits and when. I find it difficult to accept that they can't figure out who put the cocaine there. Now listen to this. This entrance is used by very few people, just White House staff and people with pre-approved appointment in the West Wing. Non-staff have to go through multiple layers of security screening and can enter only after they've been vetted and approved by the Secret Service. Also, as my friend Dan Bongino just reminded me, pretty much everyone who enters the West Wing has to empty their pockets, and the Secret Service would immediately notice and stop anyone walking in with even a small bag of white powder. Okay. I'm sorry. This is not just any old person walking in the White House. This is near the security, the Situation Room, one of the most secure areas in the West Wing, if not the world. And that's a great question. That's a great question, and flagrant. That's going to lead to an article I've got here from the Federalist. And boy, you got a really valid point, because I want to pull this up right now, since you sort of walked us to this one. Take a look at this. Headline: The White House that tracked down grannies after the Capitol riot wants you to believe cocaine caper has them stumped. An article by Jordan Boyd. And this is really interesting. The White House is apparently giving up on finding who is responsible for leaving an illicit drug in the executive mansion last weekend. At least that's what Politico reported based on temporary testimony of an unnamed law enforcement official. Okay, I want to go a little bit further into this article. Unless cocaine came from a member of the first family, such as Hunter Biden, who potentially resides in the White House and gets a free pass to walk in and out, finding the culprit should be an open and shut case for the, quote, excellence through talent, technology, and diversity within the Secret Service. Yet the Biden administration repeatedly showcases a lack of interest in discovering and sharing who dropped the bag and why. So what's preventing a visitor from bringing in anthrax or something that's not magnetic into the White House? One reporter queried at Wednesday's press briefing. It's a question worth asking. If the cocaine caper truly was a security breach that law enforcement officials couldn't catch at security checkpoints or on cameras, the White House cannot, in good conscience, claim that the first family is safe in the executive mansion. Instead of addressing reporters' concerns, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre emphasized that the president and the family were not at the White House during the incident. She, along with several White House leakers, also repeated the idea that the drugs were discovered in a highly traveled area where many West Wing visitors come through. Okay. No. Here's a good point. Security failures in important government buildings, including the White House, have certainly occurred in the past. When protesters walked into the Capitol on January 6th, one of the most notable breaches in recent history, the Biden administration partnered with banks, cell phone companies, and big tech to crack down, question, and arrest people. Today, with encouragement from the president himself, the Justice Biden Department is working to find and charge Americans for their presence in the Capitol in 2021. Whether the cocaine belongs to someone with a history of doing crack like Hunter, a staffer, or even White House guest, Americans deserve to know why the Biden administration suddenly doesn't care about security breaches. And I'll tell you what, Jordan Boyd has got an absolute point here. Okay, let's think about this logically for a second. We're talking about the White House. Outside of the U.S. Capitol and the Supreme Court, we're talking one of the most heavily surveillanced buildings in not just the United States, but in the world. Under constant surveillance, cameras everywhere, no angle not covered, security checkpoints, sniffing dogs, Secret Service, security agents, whatever, protecting the President of the United States and the President's family, however many individuals that consists of. So you're telling me that for all that surveillance and all those security people and all that Secret Service and dogs and whatever other measures that they use, you guys can't tell me who brought in a zipper bag of cocaine? Yet you can track down grandmas from January 6, 2021, who just happened to wander into the Capitol. You can find them, but you can't figure out who brought in cocaine to the White House with all that technology and all those people? And let's think about the implication of that for just a moment. If you're sitting there telling me that you can't figure out who this is, then I have a question which is alluded to in this article. Is the first family safe? Is the first family really safe in the residence of the White House? If somebody can get a bag of cocaine in the White House, why can't they get anthrax? Why couldn't they get anything else? Why couldn't they get whatever to do harm to possibly the president, the president's family, the members of the White House staff, etc.? Not safe. And I am not trying to stir anything with that statement. It's just a logical conclusion. Now, on the other hand, if you are letting the president and the first family stay in the residence of the White House, then apparently the Secret Service must feel that the president and the first family are secure. And if they're secure, that means one of two things. Either A, you couldn't figure out who it was but you are very reasonably assured that it's not going to happen again, which I really have a hard time buying. If it happened once, it can happen twice, which doesn't, to me, answer the question of security for the first family. Or number two, you know who did it, you just don't want to say it. And why do I have a strange feeling? Why do I have a very strange feeling that that's exactly what... What the hell? Seriously? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding Americans right now? I mean, Jordan Boyd from the Federalist brings up a perfectly valid point. For the past 3 years, you've been finding people and charging them for having gone into the Capitol on January 6th. You've worked with big tech, you've worked with banks, you've worked with whomever. You found all of them, but you can't find one person who brings in a zipper bag full of cocaine near the Situation Room of the White House? You expect us to buy this? Seriously? Do you think we're crazy? Do you think we're stupid? By the proof of the fact that the first family is still allowed to stay in the residence of the White House is the fact you guys have got to know who it was. You're just not saying anything. Because for you to do anything else, for you to let them stay there and not know who did this means, in reality, God forbid, and I'm serious about this, God forbid, the first family is not secure because you can't guarantee what can and cannot get into the White House. You can't guarantee who can and cannot get into the White House or what, God forbid, that person may or may not bring. If you can't produce with absolute certainty who did this, then how can the Secret Service in good conscience let the first family stay there? Saying it was too delayed to have been Hunter. I believe they knew about it, dressed Hunter down after the 4th. Okay. Hang on to that thought, Flagrant, because I found a tweet. I pulled this up. I tell you what, my audience is on fire today. Y'all are awesome. Man, I'm telling you, it's telepathy. We are totally in sync. Listen to this. Hang on a second. This is from a guy, Don Keith. He's got his own podcast, but I want you to listen to what he says here. This goes to Flagrant's point about, who could it have belonged to. Listen to this.
Let's play a game called Whose Coke Is It Anyway? Trump's former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, stated this week that the cocaine found at the White House couldn't possibly be Hunter's because it was found 72 hours after Hunter left the White House.
Okay, now remember what he just said, folks. Now listen to this.
But the point I'd like to make about that is if the Secret Service are so incompetent they can't figure out who the drugs belong to 72 hours after they were found, then they are incompetent enough to have missed them 72 hours before they were found, which means it is very likely Hunter Biden's cocaine. And now that we know these drugs were found in an extremely secure part of the West Wing where everyone has to be scanned and go through security except for family, the choice becomes even more obvious. I mean, who else would have the balls to bring an illegal narcotic into the people's sacred house except for the guy who just got the sweetheart plea deal of a lifetime after his own laptop implicated him in some of the most heinous and egregious crimes known to man?
If you like what I do here, please do me some favors. Number 1, please give me a thumbs up on the video. Number 2, leave a comment below. Number 3, please subscribe to the channel. And number 4, please share it around. I'll take all the help I can get. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative, and I'll see you next time.